Irvine, who worked as an EAP teacher at the University of Glasgow. Carol's unexpected passing on the 1st of February this year came as a shock to us in Glasgow, and we were very much touched by the many heartfelt messages of support and sympathy that came from our university and EAP community and ESOL community alike. Carol joined the university in 1995, having previously worked in various countries from Chile, Poland, Kazakhstan, Egypt, and also in Siberia. She initiated and chaired the steering group, and she was the mastermind behind the PIM on learner identity held by University of Glasgow in 2016. She was also an active member of Glasgow ESOL Forum and Satafo and Nutekla. Carol was a warm and humble colleague with passion for travel, active lifestyle, and cakes. Carol had a life-changing accident 3 years ago, but her resilience and determination to be active and to work once again ensured that she came back to work last year, and her inspirational story was captured in an interview that she did for a UK-wide charity backup. Carol was a strong advocate for widening participation. She played a key role in facilitating access to pre-sessional places for refugees here in Glasgow, and it is this work which inspired this session. So without further ado, I will stop sharing and I will give the floor to Bill.
Hello everyone. Yvonnie, am I coming through loud and clear? Yeah?
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay. Yeah, I worked with Carol for 20 years before moving on last year to a new position, and it was a real privilege for me. I learned a great deal and got a great deal of pleasure from working alongside Carol. And many refugees and asylum seekers, their first contacts with education when they come to the UK is with further education colleges. They had to start again and work their way back up again. But Carol, I think, understood that she was always keen to help them get back on track. And she understood that many aspired to restarting their interrupted university studies or to developing the skill set that they had spent years developing. And for that meant getting back into university as well. And so Carol was in a good position because she had this background in further education, and she was working within Glasgow University. And she made the most of that. She exploited her interesting position, and so she was, for example, even back in 2005, she'd written a consultation paper for the adult ESOL strategy for Scotland as part of the Scottish executive. So I think we can safely say that Carol was ahead of the curve in many ways on support for refugees and asylum seekers. Obviously, it was linked a lot to her background in Chile, and she would often mention the fact that this was something which was absolutely formative for her own interest in helping refugees. Then she went on to produce reports and talks on the support, particularly within Scotland, for refugees, not just in colleges, but also private companies. She came back and told me interesting things about what support there was, for example, for Polish bus drivers, here in Glasgow, and I found that really interesting. She opened my eyes to many things, and I think that was true for many of us at the University of Glasgow. She was ahead of as I said, she was ahead of the curve within the University of Glasgow, and I'm sure she was delighted. I know she was delighted that the university is applying for University of Sanctuary status, and she'd pushed for that. She'd been across to Edinburgh, met with, for example, Michael Jenkins, who's talking. Michael will be talking later to find out about this initiative, But she also, and I'll be very quick, but she wanted to use her own position within the EAS unit in Glasgow University to provide free places for refugees and asylum seekers within our summer pre-sessional course. Because basically, if you work in a pre-sessional course, you'll understand that if you've got a class of 14, it costs the university nothing to put an extra person in that class. The only cost is the administrative costs are quite significant in supporting the refugees in applying for these and surviving, you know, and getting money for them during the summer period. So Carol was very good at, for example, meeting the Glasgow University refugee champion to get the funding that would allow the school to actually provide this support for the refugees and asylum seekers. And she also really, and I'll finish here, she was fantastic in keeping her links with the FE colleges around the city, which allowed us to identify potential people who could use these free places on our summer pre-sessional course, because it's not always easy to actually get the information out there. And then literally the last thing I'll say is that just about a year ago, Carol was out having a meal with our colleague Brian. Perhaps this will come up later, but she and Brian received a free dessert because one of the people working in the restaurant had come through the University of Glasgow's summer pre-sessional and was very fond of Carol, as we all were. So I'm very grateful that you've given me this opportunity to say a little bit about Carol, and yeah, I really miss her. And yeah, thanks a lot, Carol.
Thank you, Bill. That's great to hear your reflections and your memories and the impact that Carol had on your work as well. And I just wanted to say to everybody that there will be a time to ask questions if you've got any questions about how these things can be done. The focus in this session was really how to empower EAP practitioners who often see themselves as powerless, and what can I do within I'm put in a position where I've got to deliver what I've got to deliver, but people like Carol show us that we can do things and we're not powerless. So if I can just, so there will be time for sort of questions and answers after each, after the talks at the end. But if we can move on and just touch on that impact beyond Glasgow, and that's where Aleks will come.
Okay, hello everybody, and thank you very much, Bill, for sharing your testimonial about Carol. So I'd just like to add a little bit to that. So basically, so I first heard about the work of that Carol and Bill were doing actually at the BALEAP PIM in Glasgow in 2017 that Yvonnie mentioned before, that Carol was involved in putting together. So, so that's where I found out about the fact that they had been offering refugee background students places on their pre-sessionals. And that kind of really chimed with me at that time, because I was kind of having conversations with my manager, Phil Horspool, who's going to be talking next, about the possibility of doing a similar thing at Leicester. But the difficulty that we were facing at the time is that we didn't quite know how we could visualize what that would look like, and we were really looking for examples of how this had worked in practice successfully before, because that would give us a bit more kind of backup when we were putting together arguments for our senior management team. And so Carol and Bill really kindly offered to share their report, evaluation report of how it had gone when they'd offered these places to refugees on pre-sessionals. So they shared that with us, and we were able to really use those kind of insights into what had worked, what might not have worked so well that time, and to use that to build upon, really. And so that was enough to persuade our senior management team to do a similar thing at our university. So from that point onwards, we started to open up pre-sessionals, so 12 places per term to refugee students. And many of these students have since been able to move on to university programs, and I can honestly say that it was the work of Carol and Bill and their generosity in sharing these insights with us that helped us set these wheels in motion to shift our practice within our university and to widen participation for refugees. So it's really people like Carol who are visionaries and pioneers in the area of social justice, who are a true inspiration and a guiding light to so many others. And the ripple effects caused by their actions live on and will continue to be felt for years to come. So on this note, I'd like to hand over now to my manager, Phil Horspool, who's going to outline these ripple effects in more detail, focusing on our sanctuary work at the University of Leicester and how EAP staff were at the very heart of this.
Hi everyone. So as Aleks said, I am the director of the Centre for International Training and Education, and part of that centre is the English Language Teaching Unit and now the Sanctuary Seekers Unit. So we've been sort of driving forward support for refugees and asylum seekers at the University of Leicester for a number of years. Yeah, today I just want to kind of very briefly introduce you to University of Sanctuary, talk to you a little bit about the importance of language. I think I'll be preaching to the converted there, and I say just sort of really focus on what we have done as the English Language Teaching Unit, and perhaps give some ideas of what you may be able to do in your institutions. I did put this kind of vision statement here at the bottom, just to say that this is a kind of statement as part of a paper that is supported by our university leadership team, and I hopefully gives some idea of you know, that we've got support throughout the university on this. It's not just us doing this. Okay, so yeah, if we can move on to the next slide, Aleks. Yeah. So I guess the first thing to think about is, you know, why would we want to support refugees and asylum seekers in higher education? And I think this slide tells a story about opportunity and also about barriers as well. And I really see language as a major barrier to prevent students from being able to access higher education. So, as I say, I'll focus on what we've done, and I'm going to be quite honest with you. You know, I'm just going to kind of breeze over kind of problems that we've had and difficulties as though they were not there. But that's not to say that it's not been a you know, a challenge at times, and you know that it has been difficult. But you know, perhaps some of those things will come up in the questions later. But yeah, I kind of want you guys to go away thinking, God, that's pretty easy. Why don't we do it at our institution? So you know, so I'll be focusing on that. Yeah, if we can move on to the next slide, Aleks. Okay, this is a kind of very detailed slide, but it'll talk about 3 phases of what we've done. But very much initially what happened was colleagues like Aleks were involved in working with City of Sanctuary and delivering language classes. And I was talking to Aleks one day about these classes, and what she was telling me was that they kind of had very poor facilities in which to deliver them. They didn't have many resources. Often the teachers were volunteers and didn't necessarily have a background in teaching. So essentially what we said was, well, you know, we've got a building, it's not used all the while, so come and use our building. We can help you build some resources, and we'll help you with some teacher training, because, you know, we are a CELTA centre, so, you know, we've got a certain amount of expertise around that. So that was the start. These are called here informal English classes. You can see that, you know, well over 300 students have kind of gone through these classes. They're often fairly low-level classes. Generally, they are general English classes, but not exclusively. And then quite a few of the students from these programs then go on to phase 2, which will pop up magically now, which is our pre-sessional English classes. So very much carrying on with the work that Carol had started. We are fortunate that we have pre-sessional classes all year round, not just over the summer. So as Bill was just saying, we thought, you know, well, if there's 12 people in a class, then there might as well be 16 people in a class, because there's no real extra cost to this in terms of the delivery. So we started offering free places on our pre-sessional programs from October 2017. The 50+ number at the bottom is those that have actually finished our kind of highest level and therefore meet the university's language requirement, which is generally, you know, from like probably for yourselves, like most programs, are sort of 6.5, nominal 6.5 in IELTS. And then there's a kind of third area in which we support refugees and asylum seekers. So there are numerous scholarships around for asylum seekers, including a kind of free place on our CELTA training program and our online EAP program. And I just wanted to kind of, I'm going to come back to the online thing at the bottom in a moment, but the OET classes, this is occupational education test. This is a test for doctors and nurses primarily who want to work in the National Health Service. And we've been offering free places to doctors and nurses on these programs for a couple of years now. And again, you know, this is another barrier, if you like, you know, to stop, you know, often these are highly qualified medical people, but they can't get work because they can't get past that first barrier, which is language again. So, you know, we're kind of helping on that. So, okay, if you could just go on to the next slide, Alex, that'd be great. Okay, right. So there is a ton of organisations that we work with, you know, both locally in Leicester and across the country, but even further afield than that. I mentioned OET, and in the top right-hand corner, you can see RefuAid. They're a group that we work with based in London. So what happens is, if you like, we deliver the classes, they pay for them to do the exams, and actually we're looking at expanding that in terms of support, what other support we can give to potential future doctors and nurses. And there's a whole bunch of other organisations which, you know, we've built up over the years. And I think it's really important when doing this to work with the community and sort of build up this network. Okay, if we can move on. Yeah, so we're not a great department for sitting around on our laurels going, aren't we great, we've done all of this, so our job is done. So we are a University of Sanctuary and have been for a number of years. But for me and for us, people like Alex, that was really just the beginning. And as you can see from our vision statement at the beginning, you know, we've got like ambition, which is shared by the leadership of our university. Not for nothing are we known by the Daily Mail as the University of Woke, I might add. But anyway, there's a lot of plans that we've got for the future, but just these two at the bottom, I think, are most relevant to this audience. COVID has given us the opportunity to put many of our programs online, and we've continued to support refugees and asylum seekers, both in what we refer to as phase 1 and phase 2, with online programs. But what we've been able to do is actually offer these programs further afield, both in the UK outside of Leicester, but also with refugees around the world. And this has kind of got us thinking about whether we can put together some sort of network of universities who could offer sort of language support online to refugees around the world. So I'll be really interested in talking to anybody who is interested in that idea. And the second thing is, I mentioned that a number of our students, you know, they finish our pre-sessional and then they want to go and do a degree program. sometimes they get to, you know, if they are refugees, they can access the grant system like other students. If they are asylum seekers, they have to look for scholarships and they can go, you know. But what I'd like to be able to do, and I think another thing that we can investigate is actually getting our institutions to recognise each other's pre-sessional programmes. So it's to say, you know, if this person has got a pass from the University of Leicester or the University of Leeds or one of the many other universities, that meets the language requirement for the other universities. And I think this would also really help to find places for these sanctuary seekers in other institutions. So definitely two ideas that I'd like to explore. Okay, the next slide, Aleks. Yeah, so I think the great thing about the way we've done this, and you know, another institution I know have done something similar, is I think it's a kind of winner for everybody. You know, I think it's obvious that we're helping to bridge that gap and offer more opportunities, so it's good for the students themselves. But it's been absolutely great for the department in many ways as well, because we've got, you know, much more diversity in the classroom. It's kind of more interesting for the teachers. It's challenging, you know, I'm not, but it's, you know, it's great. And before we went into lockdown, the atmosphere around the building and the number of social activities that we could do involving students from kind of countries that we'd never had students from before was really great. So I think it helps us, it helps the university as well, because, you know, they get quality students at the end of the day. You know, we've got some scholarships. We're now starting to see some of those students doing degree programs at the university, which is, you know, beneficial to everybody. And I think it also gives kind of hope to kind of future students and you know, that seeing that opportunity of wow, you know, I could, if I really push on the language, then I can end up getting a place at a university and either resuming or starting my kind of higher education. So very briefly, that's it. That's what we've done. You know, it's only 10 minutes. Hopefully I've managed that. But if you'd like more information, Aleks has written a fantastic piece there with much more detail. There's our website as well. Also, I'll put my email. I'm always happy to talk to people directly or come to your institution and talk to people about what we've done and whether that could be applied to what you're doing. And hopefully some questions will come up in the chat later. So thanks for inviting me.
Thank you very much, Phil. That's really, really interesting. And I'm sure the offer of help and support will be taken up. I was really interested in hearing about the online programs, and I thought that it links really, really well with our next speakers. So Michael and Karen, are you ready?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you very well.
Okay, I'll share. Hold on a second. Okay, have you got the slides there? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, good, great. Okay, just to say thanks very much for organising this. I met Carol a few times and she was involved in CARA at the very beginning of the project, which was about 4 years ago now. So really I'm just going to go through the background to the CARA Syria programme. And I've got 2 or 3 testimonials from some participants in the programme, which would be interesting to hear from if I can get you to listen to them technically. So CARA is the Council for At-Risk Academics, which was founded in 1933 to provide help to academics who'd been expelled from Germany. And this is a picture of Einstein at the first fundraising meeting at the predecessor for CARA, which developed into CARA. And there are 2 main strands to CARA. There's the fellowship program, which places doctoral students, postdocs and academics in UK universities. And there are, I think, maybe 500 fellows in universities across the UK. And also the other strand is the in-country programs, and there have been programs for Iraq and Zimbabwe, and we're involved in the current Syria program, which has been going for about 4 years. So the Syria program, and here's one of the Istanbul workshops, and our aim is to strengthen and connect Syrian academics in exile, to open up new opportunities, to ensure that when they go back, if they can go back to Syria in the future, they can help to rebuild the country. Most of the participants in the program are based in Turkey, in the border area, in Gaziantep, in Mardin, some of them in Jordan and Lebanon. And they generally, lots of them come from Aleppo, but there are participants from Homs, Damascus, right across Syria. And they're working in various situations in Turkey, many of them way below their current qualification level. There are 4 main strands to the program: EAP, which is the kind of core of the program; academic skills development, which is run really by the University of South Wales, University of Kent, and we've been collaborating with them quite a bit; research incubation visits, which involve academics coming to the UK to universities, spending some time in universities to network and get involved in joint research projects. And generally also, and research grants. So CARA has funded a lot of research grants, and other organisations. CARA has coordinated the funding of quite a lot of research, especially around the situation in Syria at the moment and the future for HE in Syria. The EAP components, and this again you can see an Istanbul workshop. Up to COVID, we were going to Istanbul every 2 to 3 months for workshops, for EAP workshops with groups of colleagues, with around up to about 50 or 60 Syrians. And unfortunately that had to stop in February last year. We are also organising weekly group lessons in Turkey, which were face-to-face, now online, with a Syrian English language teacher. And since the pivot to online in February, March this year, we've also introduced speaking sessions, and we have 7 groups of 5 happening at the moment. Al-Multaka, which means forum in Arabic, is a new initiative, and the second one of those meetings happens today. This is led by the Syrians, and it's a way for them to network, for them to present new research ideas and proposals, with EAP teachers present providing some feedback. And we're beginning a foundation course for new participants from April this year. But the core of the program is the one-to-one online lessons, which have been happening since the beginning of the program. We have around 100 Syrian academics involved in some part of the EAP programs. So the one-to-one lessons, we have EAP teachers from around 15 universities paired with Syrian academics. 1 hour once per week is a commitment, and some of the pairings have been going now since spring 2017. So there's a really strong connection between the teacher and the participant. We have around 80 plus pairings ongoing. I think actually that's gone up recently, it's about 90. There's really not much oversight or traditional QA involved in this. Really, we see ourselves as establishing a connection between the EAP teachers and academics, and then they get on with it, they negotiate what they need, and they work together to help that. It's totally voluntary and operates out with the confines of our institutions if we have them. In the one-to-one lessons, people have been doing preparation for papers, preparation for talks. A lot of the participants want to speak, so just practice a lot of speaking. They have very little contact with proficient speakers. Some of them are preparing their theses in English, PhD theses, a lot of work on research proposals and grant applications, and just general competence, development of general competence. We've got 5 levels, and these are the coordinators. Karen, who's coordinator for levels 2 and 3, is here as well. And you can see that we try to match with CEFR levels very, very roughly. I've got 3 testimonials. I thought it'd be really interesting. I hope you can hear them. I'm actually going to stop sharing for a second and make sure that I've shared the computer sound. And please tell me if you can hear. We're going to look at Galia Alasha first, she's speaking for about 1 minute, just over 1 minute, about her experience of the program as a whole. Okay, I'm going to see if this works. Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Can you hear that?
Yes, we can hear it.
Yes.
My name is Galia
Okay, I'll go back.
Al-Asha. I received a PhD in psychology from Damascus University, where I was working as lecturer before the crisis in Syria. And now I'm working as psychotherapist with a local organization in Jordan to provide psychological services for refugees and disadvantaged people in the local community. And also I'm working as a trainer with Action Children Trauma International, which is based in the UK, to offer free training for workers with the children in conflict areas in the Middle East. It was 4 years ago when I started my journey with Kara. It was when I was invited by another Syrian academic, by Kara, to do the APTES test in the British Council in Jordan. Following the result, I was nominated to visit Manchester University to prepare a proposal for research with a professor in Manchester. Kara supported me by facilitating obtaining access to the Manchester Library after ending my academic visit to the Manchester. Then I was involved many times in English workshops in Istanbul in Turkey. Through these workshops, I feel that I made significant progress in my language, which has enabled me to write many research proposals and also has enabled me to enhance my ability to review scientific research in psychology. I started with Kara when I got the 4th level in APTES, and now I am at the 5th level. The great step, which hugely has been improving my language skills, is the lessons with Jane Bottomley. We are strolling together among all the language skills. We are preparing together the materials of our lesson, which make them more useful and exciting. Finally, I would like to say that I'm grateful to Kara and all staff for their efforts and support. Thank you.
Okay, I think I've got another.
Hello, everyone. My name is.
I've got another one if I can find
Hello,
it.
everyone.
No, hold on a minute. I've got one more testimonial. Okay, here we go. Can you hear that one?
Not just yet, no.
Okay, sorry, hold on a minute. Let me try and share again. Okay, tell me if you can hear Ahmed. Hold on.
Hello, everyone. My name.
Can you hear?
Yeah, we can hear it
great.
now.
Great.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ahmed Khalil. I am from Syria, Aleppo. I hold PhD in Arabic language and literature. I have been teaching Arabic language for non-native speakers in Turkey since 2012. And last 2 years, I have been working in the translation department between Turkish and Arabic. I am teaching courses like site translation and note-taking techniques. I started participating Kara's workshop about 3 years ago, and since then I have participated in the most workshops, whether the language workshops, English language workshops, and the academic skills workshops. Also, Kara helped me to go to Oxford University. I went there for 40 days, which was very important for me and my career, because I learned a lot of new informations and new techniques about teaching languages in Oxford University, which was very useful for my career. Thank you.
Okay. And I've got one more slide again. Sorry, my sharing's not working very well. Hold on a second. Okay. Okay. Just some information about volunteering. So if you're interested in volunteering, we're usually looking for new volunteers as new participants come onto the program, and we kind of have a kind of base qualification level of a master's and a language teaching qualification, and the commitment is for one-to-one lessons is 1 hour a week, plus we estimate 1 hour admin. There's no real prescribed material, although we do have a course book for levels 1 to 3. Levels 4 to 5, the idea is that you negotiate the material with your participant, and we can provide course books or textbooks. We're often looking for tutors for speaking sessions, which happen 1 hour once per week. There's about 5 participants, and that's a very informal way of people communicating with the Syrians and getting them to talk. Istanbul workshops, we're always looking for people to come to Istanbul every 2 to 3 months. When that opens up again, we hope in the autumn. And Al-Multaqa is this new forum, and that's an interesting thing for people who are already part of the program to attend, which and provide feedback to the Syrians. The Syrians themselves organize that. So if you're interested in volunteering, please contact me at this email address here. So that's it really. I'll stop sharing and pass you back to Yvonnie, I should think.